Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Tonight, I want to start here. I want to start with a video. This is a teacher in California. As you watch, remember, this guy is influencing the youth of America. Watch carefully.
This is about a global struggle against imperialism and capitalism. Yes. But we know that all of that is happening in the context that where we now stand is stolen, occupied Mexico. Yeah. And the message that we bring is we want to bring a little bit of more of a revolutionary context to this. Why is it that these people, these frail, racist, white people want to keep us out of this country?
It's so... What? Revolutionary talk. We have more on him in just a second. By the way, this was a rally in defense of La Raza. La Raza, what? Oh, I remember. That's Sonia Sotomayor's old stomping grounds. Isn't that great? We'll tell you everything you need to know about this and so much more coming up. Let's go. You know what's so weird about that video? You know where I saw that? I found that on the internet this weekend. It's an activist teacher, Ron Gochez. Yeah, I didn't see it on CNN. No, or that Shakespearean guy that is so dramatic at 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. or whenever he's on. I don't know, I don't watch. But I didn't see it there. I saw it instead on YouTube. Yeah, been out there for a while, just making the rounds now on the internet. This guy is still teaching in high school. Same school. Yeah. I wonder if that will change. Probably not. You know, a lot of the raw audio of these Marxists and communists, running around the White House and everywhere else, originally posted on YouTube or on a blog site. Think of all of the information you'd be missing if, we didn't have the internet available. After all, much of the video that took down Van Jones, the video that we've been playing about Anita Dunn and Andy Stern, and just about everybody came from the internet. Boy, that sounds like a pesky little problem for people in the White House, doesn't it? Oh, and a completely unrelated speech the president gave this weekend, over the weekend at Hampton University, completely unrelated to any kind of video problems or anything like that. During the campaign, Obama said that he was against the fairness doctrine. Right, because, well, that's old-time stuff, But as FCC diversity czar Mark Lloyd says, the fairness doctrine doesn't go far enough. I've told you from the beginning, it wasn't going to be about the fairness doctrine. It was never about fairness. It's really about redistribution of power and control. So, over the weekend, This should chill you to the bone, America. This is what our president just said about speech.
You're coming of age in a 24/7 media environment that bombards us with all kinds of content and exposes us to all kinds of arguments, some of which don't always rank that high on the truth meter.
Oh, no. Let's ban that.
And with iPods and iPads and Xboxes and PlayStations. None of which I know how to work. Information becomes a distraction.
Wow.
A diversion. So all of this is not only putting pressure on you, it's putting new pressure on our country and on our democracy. So many voices clamoring for attention on blogs and on cable, on talk radio. It can be difficult at times to sift through it all, to know what to believe, to figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. Let's face it, even some of the craziest claims can quickly gain traction. I've had some experience in that regard.
Yes, with this show. But I don't make those claims. I just play the video that we get online. It's weird, isn't it? I've never heard the president ever say anything like that. I mean, first of all, what kind of information do you get from your iPod or PlayStation? It's almost like a red herring there. And I've also never heard the President of the United States ever, at any time, say information is a distraction, that you don't know what to believe anymore. Whoa! Information is power. And if it's not, then, well, we should fire everybody at the CIA. we should stop doing any kind of focus groups for speeches. Information can be distracting. Pesky problem. Pesky problem. Now, who's to blame for spreading all the rumors? Well, of course, 24/7 cable news. Well, I mean, some cable news channels, you know, they don't rank high on the truth meter. Could that be something like him declaring war on Fox again? So it worked out so poorly for him last time. If I'm wrong, you can call me. Go ahead. He also says it's certain blogs, not all blogs, certain blogs on the internet and talk radio outlets. Wow, that is so weird. It's almost like an enemies list, isn't it? Oh man, this network, certain blogs, and talk radio. Wow, those are the only media outlets spreading falsehoods. Everybody else, including the people at the White House, are squeaky clean. Boy, what are the odds? I'm sure this has nothing to do with silencing opponents. No, no, no. No, the president just calls them as he sees them. That's it. Let me see if we can work on this with the president just a little bit. I mean, he's encouraged people to think outside of the box. And I don't want to give you too much information here and confuse you. But he said, if you watch this show, you should read the Huffington Post, which I do. Nothing wrong with reading the Huffington Post. You know exactly what they're saying then. The Huffington Post, breaking news and opinion. It's great. I have no problem with the Huffington Post. Straight shooting website. You're going to get the truth there. No, seriously. Edward R. Murrow and Tim Russert and Ariana Huffington, same person. Have you ever seen them at a party together? No. Why? Oh, is that disinformation? I'd like to ask the president to go slumming on the other side of the tracks for just a second and take a look at some of the stories that apparently are not juicy enough for the mainstream media. And yes, the Huffington Post. For instance, Crime Inc. Crime Inc. We've been talking about Crime Inc. for a while now. It's all about cap and trade and, you know, global agreements, and it's great. It's great. But let's just say, these are trustworthy sources. POTUS approved. So you can trust them. They won't confuse you. NBC and MSNBC. Got it? Okay. You know who their parent company is? GE. You know who their CEO is? Jeffrey Immelt. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't recall the White House declaring war on MSNBC or NBC. I could be way off base here. But I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that Jeffrey Immelt is also on the president's Economic Recovery Advisory Board. That's great. Maybe you can call me Mr. President, please. I don't want to get any of this wrong, please. I know we're just the bad cable network, but please. Now, have you noticed that NBC has this bizarre proclivity for airing green weeks? Yeah, it's weird because GE, the energy company, is doing green energy specials. It's weird. It's like Al Gore practically takes over the network for days at a time and then just reads poems and tells lame jokes whenever he feels the need to preach that humans are melting the earth. Let's watch.
If we're going to solve the climate crisis, we've got to change more than the light bulbs and the windows. We've got to change the laws and the policies through collective political action on a large scale. You know, there's an old African proverb that I made up. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We need to go far, quickly.
Global warming deniers persist in this air of unreality. After all, the entire North Polar ice cap, which has been there for most of the last 3 million years, is disappearing before our eyes.
It's gone. Santa is drowning right now. It's sad, kiddies. It's sad. Does anybody have a life preserver for Santa? MSNBC not only does the Green Week thing, which is weird that it's an energy company and he's in the office with the president. Isn't that weird? But they'll even let, like RFK Jr. just eat up valuable airtime to spew his climate change crap. So there they are, going so far out of their way just to push the green agenda. Why would they do that? I mean, forget that they're an energy company. That's just me, the crazy guy on TV saying that. Why don't I find, oh, I know, I'll find this guy because he's a smart professor, Joel Rogers. He's the progressive man behind the curtain of Crime Inc. Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. He's working with the Chicago Climate Exchange, but he's also the founder of the Apollo Alliance, which wrote the stimulus package. He's also the wizard of Emerald Cities. Oh, Emerald Cities. Let's watch. What is he saying? Watch.
If you do those 6 things, I think you will be well on your way to actually greening the American economy, and you will grow the wealth, and GE and Cisco and the other people who are announcing great plans should be relatively happy with that. And any environmentalist who's not concerned about the distribution of that wealth should be relatively happy too.
That is amazing. We're going to green the economy, meaning GE is going to get rich. Isn't that weird? By the way, also all of his groups there, it's just kind of a coalition, quote, of unions, labor groups, community organizations, social justice advocates, socially responsible business, and elected officials. That's great. Like Green for All, Van Jones Group. Yeah. And his community organization is there, and AFL-CIO and SEIU, and you know, it's weird. On a completely unrelated story, did you know that Van Jones Group launched a boycott of this show? That's weird. That's weird. There it is. Oh, and this is another one. This is in a completely unrelated note. Did you know that SEIU also organized a boycott of this show? Yeah. Oh, that's right. And this one, in a completely unrelated note, did you know that the AFL-CIO launched an attack on this show? Watch, this one's great.
We're working to counter the Glenn Beck effect and turn anger into action for real change.
I wonder if they'll bury me in could it be the 50-yard line? I don't like the end zone. Would you bury me there? It's weird, isn't it? The trail of money leading to the green movement. Okay. So, Mr. President, I'm just looking here. I'm just thinking. It's not just internet, radio. Love him. He's fantastic. AFL-CIO. It's not as that. It's also NBC or MSNBC. We know they're trustworthy sources. We get the truth from NBC. We do. But remember, it's not just them. Nope, it's not. It's also Washington Post. Now remember, talk radio, cable, some blogs causing the problems. Not the Washington Post. Washington Post is a credible organization, home of Woodward and Bernstein, you know. They have no interest in looking into this. There's nothing to see here, people. Move on with your life. Move on. Yeah. Every single organization, Marxist, communist, people, GE, just directly profiteering from legislation. That's weird. And then the people who are silencing anybody who speaks out against it. Now, you wouldn't want to write a story like that in the Washington Post. No. This is crazy talk. That's what this is. But you know what is news in the Washington Post? This is interesting. I like this one. Here it is. Washington Post. Christians stand up to Glenn Beck. Oh, my good. Look at this. I didn't notice the byline. By Jim Wallace. This guy. This is so weird. This is what the Washington Post is spending their time on. Exposing me, Jim Wallace, writing a story. He's one of Obama's religious advisors and one of his political advisors there in the White House. Oh, and the founder of the Wallace Social Justice Group. And you know what's weird? He's also, these guys are boycotting the show here, and he is too. Isn't that weird? Wow, bummer for me that there are so many grassroots effort there to boycott the show. Washington Post probably doesn't even have time to report on the real news. They're too busy trying to merge with the Huffington Post. I've heard this before. I remember. the place that the president recommends that everybody goes for balanced news. Oh, it's weird. Now that I remember the Huffington Post, just a few days earlier, they posted an oddly similar story on me. The Jim Wallace in the Washington Post. Oh, this is it. Glenn Beck to Jesus. Drop dead. Yeah, it's strange because it's almost the same story that was written over here. But the president wants you to go to the Huffington Post for the truth. Well, that's good. I hope they are able to merge now. Of course, didn't the Huffington Post cost like $56 million? I doubt there's a progressive billionaire out there who'd be willing to dump any money into something like that, you know, except for somebody maybe like George Soros or Tides or the Joyce Foundation, because they were over here. The Joyce Foundation was over. Maybe they could. May I ask a question of the journalists? No, forget that. I've actually saved my breath on the journalists. Can I ask a question of all the parents, the uncles, the aunts, the sons, the daughters, anybody, a sibling of journalists? Could you just call your relative and say, why the hell aren't you reporting on any of this? What happened to you? Is there any family member out there that just kind of wonders, you know, when you get together for, you know, barbecues or something? But I digress. I am on the president's naughty list, and so is Fox and talk radio, and now the internet. But who's not? Well, one that's not on that naughty list, no way, shape, or form. The network funded by your tax dollars, PBS. Oh, they are, can I tell you something? They are so trustworthy. In fact, I feel bad for them. I hate to even bring them up because they just lost their electrifying host, Bill Moyers, to retirement. So now he's going to have more time to meet, you know, at Marxist meetings at church. You know, do you know that he goes to the United Church of Christ, which is the same denomination as Jeremiah Wright, which is weird. Anyway, when he was at church, they happened to petition the FCC, right here, media violence fast, take action, sign the letter. They wanted to look into hate speech on talk radio. What a coincidence, so does the president. Moyers has recently produced a special for PBS called The Net at Risk. This is a documentary featuring the SaveTheInternet.com coalition presented by Free Press. Free press, reform media, transform democracy. Ooh, that kind of sounds spooky, huh? Yeah, but that's what the president said we were going to do this weekend. Transform democracy. The urgent need for net neutrality. Do you know, I read about that special that Bill Moyers did with the Free Press. You'll never guess where. The Huffington Post. And here in New York tomorrow, the Free Press, a radical leftist group. Their goal is not free press or faster internet speeds. No. Robert McChesney, the founder, wants to destroy capitalism. They're having a little powwow tomorrow. Here's what he said in the past. Any serious effort to reform the media system would have to necessarily be part of a revolutionary program to overthrow the capitalist political economy. Uh-oh. Says there's no real answer but to remove brick by brick the capitalist system itself, rebuilding the entire society on socialist principles. This isn't going well, is it? We need to do whatever we can to limit capitalist propaganda, regulate it, minimalize it, and perhaps even eliminate it. What was it the president was saying just on Saturday? Oh, yeah. It's confusing. It's hard to know. So Free Press wants to take over, wants the government to take over the media. No, I don't want to just say that myself. I want you to hear it from them themselves. The government take over the media.
What if instead we took a few thousand AmeriCorps jobs and gave them to news-gathering organizations?
What if we just took AmeriCorps and just took it and had them just take over? The irony in front of the Free Press banner. Boy, somebody should read the Federalist Papers. What was it, number 10? McChesney also called for the government to bail out and take over the media in an opinion piece that ran in the Washington Post. The FCC also says they are marching forward, but a boot on your throat, announcing plans to make internet companies a public utility. Free Press just happens to have one of its former people sitting, where is he? Right here, FCC chairman. Guess who's an assistant? Former member of Free Press, now at the FCC. This is weird, because they're for net neutrality. The court shot that one down, but they're going to make it a public utility now. I know we can trust all these organizations now. We're getting the truth. I'll give you some more of that truth next. Okay? It's happened. It's happening now. Who bailed them out? Germany. But here's what the media has been saying about me all along. In an article titled, New York Times, Fox News, mad, apocalyptic, cheerful, rising star. They wrote, in part, he talked to experts about the possibility of global financial panic and widespread outbreaks of violence. Oh, man. Oh, I know, that's crazy talk. Any financial panic or outbreaks of violence, that's crazy. That would never happen. And as our president pointed out during his commencement speech this weekend, there is a lot of questionable stuff from bloggers. This one from news hounds. Glenn Beck, fear-mongering of the day. Radical European thought is now on our shores. That's downright silly, right? Well, here's a headline from the New York Times this past Saturday. Greek debt. Woes ripple outward from Asia to U.S. Wait a minute, what? I thought that was right-wing lunatic crazy talk. On Fox and Friends this morning, Stuart Varney was asked if a $1 trillion bailout would fix the situation from Greece. This is important. He said, no, that's not what it was about. It's about buying time.
All it does is buy some time. Right. The underlying problem, the European socialist model, is broken. You've got to fix it. Okay. Can they fix it? In my opinion, probably not. So you're just buying time with $1 trillion.
Okay, buying time. For what? To fix it? No. For whom? Time to implement more failed socialist programs? Time to consolidate more power? Yes. Time to rake more cash off the stock market? Yes. Time to integrate the global governments? Yes. Yes. All of these countries are collapsing because of socialism. The question is, why are we headed towards socialism when everything else is collapsing? Forget about the time how they're using it. Let me ask you this. How are you using it? When the TARP debate was raging, that first week we heard about that, what was it, $757 billion? I initially said, for the first 3 days, I was for it, because I believed that the people in the government were telling the truth when they said we were headed for a side of a mountain. We are. The prevailing theory was the TARP bailout would help us land our plane in the trees instead of the side of the mountain. Still be a crash landing, but we would have time to prepare. By Wednesday of that week, I quickly realized that they had no intention of landing it in the trees. No. Instead, they had every intention of continuing to fly the plane towards the mountainside. They had time to put on their parachutes, but they weren't going to tell you. They would tell you that everything was okay. This Greek debacle is now America's second warning. Please, prepare for a crash landing. How will you use this time? All right, we showed you the president's commencement speech from the past weekend, assailing the new forms of media, but let me ask you this. Where is the established old world media on anything that's going on in this country? Where are they? The New York Times is now just waking up to the problem in Greece and admitting that the problem is now spreading to Asia and the United States. That's weird. The Washington Post continues to attack me, but ignore all the evidence, the facts that I present. Time magazine, with lead attack Lilliputian, Joe Klein, remains blissfully ignorant about anything but savaging me on a regular basis. A little over a year ago, James Panazza, whatever, wrote an article titled, "The Tears of a Clown." That'd be me, attacking. James wrote in part, this is a year ago, over a year ago, "Fear of what? Take your pick. Fear that the U.S. is on a long march to fascism, that fat cats and bureaucratic bloodsuckers are plundering your future, that Mexico will collapse in chaos and will pour over the border. Yeah, James. As for any potential march towards fascism, a word I don't usually use, I mean, warrantless searches of your email, no assumption of privacy to your location, the possibility of government agents, according to Cass Sunstein, infiltrating your Tea Party meetings, and now considering dropping Miranda rights for citizens suspected of terror. I mean, there's no fascism like any march towards it at all with that. You know, it seems in the past Time magazine may have had a slight problem with all of those things, but not now. And as for plundering your future, oh, I don't know. $120 trillion worth of debt seems slightly plunderish to me. Is Mexico's collapse far-fetched? Chaos on the border is unheard of now. Wow. James, give it up. I mean, you're a guy who's just never going to wake up. For the rest of Americans, it's time to wake up. It's time to prepare. Things have changed. What did the president say over the weekend? Breathtaking change is happening at a breathtaking pace. Yes, it is. My message to you is prepare for the worst and hope and pray for the best. Prepare. Because those who have money and, you know, they know this. They know all of this stuff. They are. I'd like to invite you to go to glennbeck.com and sign up for a free trial of the Insider Extreme. We have the free radio show with a 6-camera shoot on it. We have a couple of documentaries that are going on right now, the history of the Fed and progressivism in this country. It's all free. The only way to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past is to learn from them. Check it out at glennbeck.com, free today and tomorrow. Do it now. Back in a second. Earlier in the program, I introduced you to a social justice teacher and revolutionary activist, Ron Gochez. Here's a little more of Revolutionary Ron at a rally in defense of La Raza at UCLA.
We have nine left of center governments in Latin America right now. And they know something that one young Argentine called Che Guevara said. It was called the domino theory. And he knew that every single country would go revolutionary, one after the other, after the other, after the other. So what do they fear? They know that every single country, they know that we no longer will fall to these lies called borders. We know that a Salvadoran and a Guatemalan and Nicaraguense and Mexicano, there's no damn difference. We are all one people. So with that in mind, we see ourselves, all of us here, as the northern front of a Latin American revolutionary movement.
I told you these people were here. Ron's rant reportedly happened back in 2007, but of course, he couldn't possibly still be influencing, you know, young minds in the classroom in California after what we just heard. I mean, that couldn't happen, could it? We called Santee High School in Los Angeles, where he is listed as a social studies teacher in the School of Public Service and Social Justice, to find out. Turns out, yes, he's still teaching. Yeah. Maybe this is why the teachers union wanted a bill that would take out a clause from the public employee oath saying that you've never been a communist. Remember that? Here's what the bill that Schwarzenegger ended up vetoing aimed to do. Under existing law, a public employee is required to answer under oath specified questions, including but not limited to knowing membership in an organization, advocating the forceful or violent overthrow of the government of the United States or any state. This bill would delete those provisions. Gee, crazy me. I think it would be great to have teachers that didn't advocate, you know, in a group, the overthrow of the government. America, I used to think people like this were unusual. But are they anymore? Let me ask you, why isn't there a bigger outcry? And does anybody find it interesting that the Washington Post and Huffington Post have been hammering me for saying that social justice is a code word for communists? And this guy teaches at a school for social justice. Interesting. Fascinating. Remarkable. Back in a minute.
the players of Crime Inc. and their international connections. Exposed tomorrow at 5 p.m.
Pretty amazing. Also, Founding Fathers Friday, Founding Fridays, #2 behind Bill O'Reilly. And this week, founder you probably have never heard of, George Whitefield, what he did to unite this country even before we even were a country. And some amazing things. He had a dark period in his life, but it set a fire elsewhere that turned out really good. We'll tell you all about it on Friday. Plus, sign up for a free trial of The Insider Extreme at glennbeck.com. Check it out. And also, apparently I was cut off on one of the breaks, and it made it sound like I was saying that Obama was a Satan worshiper.